Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a good day. I've got my coffee here and the topic for today is a status check. I'll explain what that is in detail, but let me first set the stage. We are officially halfway through the year, which is always that moment where we either go, I cannot believe it's already June, the year has absolutely flown by, or I can't believe it's only June. This year is unbelievably slow. And I'm curious which camp you fall into, because for me, I think since the pandemic, time has felt so strange, like it's either slipping through my fingers or completely standing still. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but let me know in the comments what your year has felt more like, fast or slow. Either way, the fact is time continues on no matter how we feel about it. And because of that, the halfway point in the year is a good time for a check-in. Not like in a scary or pressure-filled way, but more like figuring out what's working and what's not working. What we're keeping and what we are letting go of and trashing and setting on fire. You know what I mean? Let me rein back the chaos. If you're watching this, I get the feeling that you are the type of person who cares about growing. Someone who wants to feel more connected and aligned, even if everything's not figured out just yet. And if someone sent this video to you, it tells me that you've got someone in your life who loves you. Someone who sees something really powerful in you. Maybe they wanted to say, hey, I think you'd like this. I think you deserve to feel supported right now. So if you're a regular, welcome back. And if you're new here, hello, I'm Mari. I'm a longtime gaming creator who makes self-care and personal development videos. And I am really glad you're here. Now, if you clicked on this video, you probably saw an XP meter and game references, and you're probably wondering how this all ties in together with a life check-in. Well, if you know anything about me, RPGs are my bread and butter. Whether it's Animal Crossing or Fallout or GTA or Minecraft, shout out Minecraft, something about creating an avatar of yourself in a game has always really affected me on a deep level. I think you can now guess where this is going. I've been thinking about how to apply aspects of games that a lot of us already love and connecting it to self-care and personal development and checking in with ourselves, but also making it a little bit more fun and aesthetically pleasing. Because I know a lot of this stuff can feel overwhelming, and it's the reason why so much of it gets pushed to the side. We end up doing so much of life, and sometimes we lose sight of the one thing that is needed to drive that vehicle. That's the driver, that's you, and that's me. So let's focus in and check in. Let me ask you this, and really try to imagine it. If you were a character in a game, what is your current status? What item are you holding in your hand? And what is your energy level like? I shared this thought with a friend, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said that something about separating yourself and seeing yourself like a character makes it a little bit less intimidating to do a check-in. And I thought that was profound because yeah, checking in with yourself can feel or sound scary. It can feel like going to the dentist or the doctor, and most of us only go when there's an actual problem. And though I don't condone that behavior, let's call a spade a spade. So anyway, to see yourself more like a character can help soften the blow a bit. And so that's why I was inspired. I also want to emphasize that doing a check-in doesn't necessarily mean you're looking for problems or places to necessarily have to fix. You might walk away going, I am doing a great job. I am doing so well, GG's, pat on the back, applause all around, and that is just as valuable as walking away saying, okay, maybe I can change this or that around. So if you're getting cold feet and your hands are getting clammy, then I am here to tell you, don't worry. We can walk through this together, and I'm gonna show you exactly and tell you exactly what my stats are, and you don't have to do a thing. You can just hang out. But if you wanna do it for yourself, I will link a free PDF that looks just like this. Whoa, the lighting changes so much. Anyway, it looks like this. And yeah, it's in the description, it's free, and you can download it, and we can do this together. You might have already guessed correctly that the aesthetics are Stardew Valley inspired, but the stats are inspired by Fallout. The special stats are 7 different categories that reflect our lives and each have a point system to see how they measure up. And as a reminder, this is not a problem finder or a solver or something that should cause anxiety. It is a tool to notice patterns, check in with ourselves, and literally look at our proverbial loadout. It might look like this for you, or like this, or like this. And it certainly does not need to look like this. So, with that said, let's get into it. First up is strength, and this category is all about physical vitality. You know, our body, how we're moving it, how we're caring for it, and how much energy we've got in the tank. It covers movement and exercise, sleep and recovery, nutrition and hydration, and overall physical energy levels. Now, the idea here isn't to check in if you're like crushing PR goals or if you're eating perfectly healthy every single day. It's more like, do you feel good? And you're getting a temp check here. So let's go down the list. Okay, so first up is movement. And again, rather than asking myself if I'm in the best shape of my life, I would ask myself instead, how often am I moving my body in ways that feel good and like not punishing? For me, I can be really hot and cold, like going like hard at the gym or like sitting on the couch doing nothing. And so I've started to take just 10-minute walks in the morning. 10 minutes. That's it. It's the first thing I do after I wake up. And I feel good for the rest of the day that I did that. But it doesn't mean that I'm not sitting in this exact position in this chair for hours at a time. So I'm gonna give myself a +1 for that because there's a little bit room for improvement. But I've also come a long way, so that's a good thing. So I'm gonna give myself 1. Then there's sleep consistency and recovery habits. I would ask myself, like, do I wake up feeling rested most days? Am I sleeping with an intentional schedule, or is it more like throwing darts with a blindfold on? Now, if I were filling this out last month, I would give myself a 2, but this past month has been a lot of things. Tell me if this is true for you. If you're not in school and if you don't have kids, then like you don't have a summer vacation. It's like the year just continues on. But this year, I was spending a lot of time with family and the kids are out of school. And so I got kind of wrapped up in the summer activities this past month. So I've been off of my routine. So I'll give myself a +1. But last month, I would have given myself a 2. Okay. Anyway, next is nutrition and hydration practices. How is my relationship with food and water? I'd ask myself, like, am I fueling myself regularly? Am I intentional with staying healthy around hydration and nutrition? I would give myself a +1 for it. I think that there's still days like today where I'm running on coffee. I should have had breakfast. I'm running on coffee right now. But on a good day, I know what I should and could be doing, which is starting the day with some food to like nourish my brain and make sure that it's working. Instead, you got chaotic me running only on coffee today. So that's the version you get. So I'm gonna give myself a +1 for that. Next, we've got energy management. And I would ask myself questions like, am I noticing when I'm low on fuel? Or do I push myself through until I crash? Have I been ignoring physical needs or pain signals? Am I more attuned to that sort of thing? I would say, I'm proud of this. I'm gonna give myself a 2. Because I think that in the past, I used to push way past like my energy levels. I would just make myself do it. And if I wasn't doing it, I wasn't, nice to myself. And so these days, I would say that I'm like more in tune with it and I'm listening to it more. So I'm gonna give myself a 2. And finally, proactive care. That's things like taking your vitamins, booking that dentist appointment you've been putting off, or even just like checking in with your body and asking like, hey, what do you need today? I would say I'm doing well with the like checking in part. I would say that I'm not as good with like reacting to it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, buddy, you need to stretch, and it stays there. It stops there. I'm like, yeah, you need to stretch. And I'm like, yeah, you need to stretch. And rather than actually doing it, it just kind of stays. I also need to make a doctor appointment. That's something that's been on my mind too. So I'm gonna give myself a +1. I think there have been years where it's been much, much worse. So I've actually improved. So I'm gonna give myself a +1. And that's the end of section 1. Each of these areas is worth up to 2 points, so movement, sleep, nutrition, energy, and care. And that gives you a max of 10. I landed at 6, which honestly feels like a solid starting point. It's already a huge improvement, like I said, from where I would have scored in the past, especially around sleep. That's the one that I'm like the most proud of, because sleep, you know, I used to just be on like gamer hours, which is not sleeping at all and just saying, I can pull through, it was worth it. Right now, I'm addicted to Fallout 76, so that's kind of happening. But tonight, I'm getting back on my routine. I said it out loud, so it's gonna happen. Let's move on. Next up is perception. This one's about awareness, emotional presence, and tuning into what's actually going on inside, not just reacting on autopilot. It's about noticing your inner world and how it's affecting your outer one. First up, there's mindfulness and stillness practices. I would ask myself for this section, like, how often am I taking even a minute to pause and just notice what I'm thinking or feeling? Am I moving through the day with some sort of intention, or am I just rushing from one thing to the other? I think I could be better at this. I think I'm more intentional than before. On days where I'm like, my brain isn't working, I would just go until my brain just breaks. These days I'm like, my brain's not working right now. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a walk around the block and come back to it. I'm allowing myself to give myself like a break that I would give to a friend or a colleague. If they were like, my brain's like broken right now and I can't seem to focus on the work that I'm supposed to be doing, I wouldn't be like, then keep working. I would be like, oh yeah, go get a snack, dude, and like come back. I would not say those same things to my own brain in the past, and so now I'm treating myself more like I would a friend. And so with that, I think there's vast improvement, and there's still days that I could improve some more. So I'm gonna give myself a +1. Next, we've got emotional check-ins or emotional regulation tools, basically emotional awareness. I would ask myself, like, do I understand what I'm feeling and why? Do I have any tools for checking in, like journaling or breath work or stepping away from something? Or am I just letting my emotions run the show without noticing? I'm gonna give myself a 2 for that, because I think I am so much more aware these days. And I'm proud of that. The next area is about upholding boundaries. And I would ask myself, am I upholding boundaries that actually protect my peace? Or am I leaking energy into things that don't feel good? Am I over-explaining things that don't need explaining? Am I people-pleasing? Am I saying yes to things that I actually mean no to? This is an area that I'm actually really proud of. I, as an adult, needed to learn how to create boundaries because for a very, very long time, I thought I was keeping myself safe by not having boundaries because it meant that I wouldn't get into fights, I wouldn't need confrontation, I wouldn't be upsetting people or offending people around me. So I thought by not having those boundaries up, I was actually keeping myself safe. But the only person who wasn't safe in that situation was me. So I have learned how to create boundaries, and by doing so, guess what? Everyone is a lot happier, including myself. So if you don't know how to create boundaries, good gosh, maybe I should do a whole video on it, but learn to do it. Even if you're an adult, even if it feels too late, learn how to do it. I'm gonna give myself a +2 on this because I'm really proud that I've learned. Next is reducing overstimulation and improving focus. Ooh, this is a good one. I'd ask myself, how often do I feel like my system is absolutely fried? Am I constantly juggling too much or distracted or scrolling? I'd say that I've had really good improvements with overstimulation. I have stopped watching reality TV and true crime and drama channels, gotten rid of some social media platforms. The one thing is that I am still caught scrolling. I saw something called Brick. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, and this is not an ad, but it's basically something that physically like bricks your phone, and I might try that. I know for a fact that mornings when I start with scrolling, I feel way worse than mornings when I don't. So although there's been a huge improvement, I know that there's one last part that I want to unlock, and that's the scrolling part. So I'm gonna give myself a 1. And lastly, this one is about intuitive attunement. consistently tuning into your own emotional state or intuition. This one's like about tuning into those like gut feelings. Asking yourself, do I trust myself? Do I listen to those intentional internal nudges, or am I just like brushing them off and only realizing later that they were like trying to tell you something? I think I am much improved. I have reconnected with my gut. I let go of it at some point in the past like few years, and I'm reconnected. Like I trust myself now. And even when I'm kind of like know that I'm like messing up somewhere, I'm like, you got this, buddy. Like we're gonna come back to it. And I know that I will. I trust myself. I'm gonna give myself a 2. And that wraps up this section for perception. Same deal as before, 2 points per mini area. And we've got mindfulness, emotional awareness, boundaries, overstimulation, and intuition. Max of 10 points, and I'm at an 8. And I agree with that. That awareness is high. Doesn't always mean that the execution is high, but the awareness is there. And you know what? That to me that's a good start. Okay, next one is endurance. This one is less about like stamina in the physical sense, but more about how you are holding your life together, like with systems and routines and rituals. Basically the day-to-day stuff that keeps you from spiraling into chaos. And I know that some of you in the audience love a little bit of chaos, but we're trying to keep that at a minimum. So back to this. The first one is about morning and night routines. I would ask myself, do I have a routine? Do I have a rhythm to how I start and end my day? Am I doing things that help me feel grounded? Or am I just waking up to chaos and falling asleep to my phone screen? Some of you feel like you're getting called out right now. Oh gosh, if I was filling this out literally a month ago, I would have given myself a 2. I was on such a good routine, but at the same time, even though I'm off of it right now, I know that I can do it. And I did it for long enough that I'm like, oh, it becomes easy. I can do this. Yeah, I know what it can be. And I think that's sometimes really important. Just right now, I'm off of it. So yeah. +1 for me. Next is weekly daily planning habits. Basically, this is like time and task management. I would ask myself questions for the section like, am I planning ahead? Am I using a calendar? Or does it feel like I am just constantly winging it and just hoping it all gets done? I would say that I've always been very meticulous with this part. I'm like a task management monster. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always good though. Just because it's on paper doesn't mean that I also execute. So I'm gonna give myself a 1 for that. The third area is about life upkeep systems like cleaning, errands, grocery runs. Am I staying on top of things, or am I just letting things starting to pile up? Gosh, sometimes I wonder if I didn't have Pete in my life, would I have clean laundry? And it's not that he does everything. He's like, hey, let's do laundry, you know, that sort of thing. And it definitely feels like we're playing co-op in life, which is really nice. I would say that it never gets so bad that things are in ruin, but it's definitely like he takes the reins in like being like, hey, come on, let's go do the thing. Let's go to Costco. Let's go get some groceries. So I'm gonna give myself a 1. It's not in complete shambles, but it could be better. Next is habit tracking or discipline. I would ask myself in this section, have I started any small habits this year that are sticking? Have I been consistent with things that I know help me feel better, even if I don't like it? Because habits are hard. I would say this, good habits are hard. Bad habits like scrolling, very easy. I know the routine that helps me feel really good. But again, right now, this past month, I've been off of it, and yeah, like I feel a huge difference. There's a nagging feeling in my head where it's like, oh, you know, you could have gotten up at 6 this morning, but you got up at 8:30. You know, it's like, it's a little thing. I lied. I got up at 9, 10. But I said 8:30 because I felt like it didn't sound as bad. But I snoozed since 6 a.m., which is bad. I snoozed for 3 hours and 10 minutes. Anyway, I know when I feel good, and so therefore I know there's hope. So yeah, I'm gonna give myself a 1 for that. And finally, the last part, structuring your day in a way that supports your goals and energy. Basically, this is like personal infrastructure, like using tools and apps for reminders or vision boarding. Am I building systems that support my goals? Am I keeping focused, and am I using those tools to do so? Or on the other end of the spectrum, am I just low-key like drowning in disorganization? I feel a little bit of both sometimes. I feel like sometimes I have all of the parameters in place, and yet I'll nuke it one day. Be like, yeah, that was a good system that worked for a month. Nuke. I'm good with using tools to manage and organize. It's the execution that is not always there. So I'm gonna give myself a 1 for that. And that is endurance. Same deal as before. 5 mini areas, 2 points each. This one consisted of morning-night routines, time management, life upkeep, habit forming, and structuring your life. Maximum out of 10, and I'm at 5, and that's okay. I have a vision, I know what it can look like, and I'm slowly getting there, you know? Just as endurance implies though, it is about treating this like a marathon. And I think for me, it's really hard because it's about continuous small choices that are made on a daily basis, and those continuous choices, they become your habits. Some of you might be absolute rock stars with this particular facet. I have a harder time with the marathon part because I think I'm like naturally a metaphorical sprinter. So yeah, it takes work for me to change that. But I know that I can change, like I've seen it. And if you're doing this with me, we've done what, 3 sections at this point? I just wanna remind you, this is literally a check-in. There's no comparison, no shame. It's all meant to show you where things are for you right now, and that's it. So let's continue on. Okay, next one is charisma. And no, that doesn't mean like being the loudest person in the room or being like popular or famous. This one is about connection, which maybe I should have just called it connection now that I think of it. Anyway. Okay, it's already printed. This is like how we show up in our relationships, how we communicate, and whether we feel supported or isolated. First up is relationships. Specifically, if you're nurturing those relationships, I would ask myself questions like this. Who have I stayed in close contact with this year, and why? Have I been reaching out or checking in or keeping those connections warm, or have I been pulling away? And I would ask myself why. I use an app called Finch, and it's basically a Pokemon for self-care. So like the more good things that you do in your life, then the more your Pokemon grows. On my Finch app, every day I have a connection task to do, which is to reach out to a friend. And so because it's been tied to this freaking Pokemon that I want to grow, I've been consistent with that. So yeah, connection has been really good for me this year, because I've been intentional about it. I think before it was just kind of like, oh, whoever reaches out, that's great. And, you know, like someone will reach out, that sort of thing. I've been a lot more intentional this year, and it's made a big difference. So I'm gonna give myself a 2. Next up is about strong boundary setting or repair. I would ask myself questions like, am I protecting myself and protecting my peace in relationships? Or am I letting things sort of slide that really don't feel okay? Have I been respecting my boundaries, and have I been respecting other people's boundaries as well? Am I repairing relationships, or am I keeping my distance? I am being very intentional about my boundaries, and sometimes that means that for me, and this is for me, like it might not resonate with you, but for me, repair can mean letting go and not necessarily repairing if I feel like somebody has crossed a boundary. That's how I approach it. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the universal like way to do it. But if someone's crossed my boundaries, I personally am not going to repair. So for me, it is working. For me, I feel peaceful, and I'm gonna give myself a 2 for that. Next is about deep emotional conversations. Am I being honest about how I feel? Am I sharing what I need or expecting people to read my mind? Have I had any conversations that felt meaningful or vulnerable or healing? It's kind of a mixed bag. I think that I have become very, very honest and open about being vulnerable, and that wasn't always the case. I would have this front like if I wasn't strong, I wasn't worthy type of thing. And so I've become very, very open with that, which I'm sure you can feel with like the different content that I've put out this past year. Am I being honest about how I feel? I still get cold feet in being like, this is how I feel right now. I think sometimes I'm a little late to figuring out what that feeling was. But I would say I'm getting a lot better about not feeling regret for not saying it in that moment. I'm much better being like, hey, that thing, I have a conclusion, I have a feeling on it now, and I'd like to express it. Before I'd be like, oh, the moment's gone, so I can't bring it up because that's more embarrassing. And anyway, I'm gonna give myself a +1 for that. Then we've got building or contributing to community. I would ask myself questions like, have I been part of something bigger than myself this year? That could be a friend group or a creative space, an online circle, or volunteering. This past year, I'm part of a couple of nonprofit organizations. I'm volunteering, I'm mentoring, I'm teaching classes this summer. And then like my friend group too, like we're co-working and stuff like that. So yeah, the connection part, I would say I'm rocking it this year. So I'm gonna give myself a +2 for community. And finally, repairing or resolving social tension. This is about like, I would ask myself questions like, have I avoided hard conversations? Or have I been able to work through tension with honesty and with care? Have I tried to fix something that mattered, or did I let it fade? I think that I'm better at having hard conversations, but there's still a part in my brain where I'm like, is this gonna make somebody mad, or am I gonna get in trouble? I think rather than is this gonna make somebody mad, it's more so in my mind, am I gonna get in trouble? And that makes me sound like a little kid, right? Am I gonna get in trouble? I'm an adult, and I still feel like I'm gonna get in trouble for stuff. That is a kid mentality and feeling, and I'm hyper aware of it. Like when I feel that way, I feel like a 9-year-old who's like wanting to rebel but like still scared that they're gonna get in trouble. So there is an awareness there. So I'd give myself like a +1 for that, because I think that there's still parts of me that can still grow. Okay, so now that was charisma, AKA connection. I really should have just called it connection probably. I don't know, what do you think? I kept it as charisma because that was like the original special, in games and like D&D and RPG, it makes sense. But anyway, that's what it was, same as before, 5 areas, 2 points each. And that's relationships, emotional communication, boundaries, community, repair. Max of 10 points, I am at an 8. I'd say as you reflect on this one, it is okay if there are areas that feel tender or incomplete or, like stuff like that. Relationships definitely shift. And sometimes the most honest score is just noticing what's missing. It doesn't mean that you're bad at relationships or you should feel lonesome or anything like that. It just means that like it takes time and work and energy. Like you're connecting with others, but also there's a part of you that's connecting with yourself, and that takes time. I would not score an 8 in other years in the past. It's a tough one because it's not only you, it's also others, but so much of it comes from you. We're all learning together. We're all growing together. You got this. Okay, now we're on to intelligence. This stat is all about your mind, your curiosity, your clarity, your decision-making, and how you handle all that stuff that lives in your head. It's not so much about like how smart you are. So I don't care if you get a 1500 on your SAT, okay? Your intelligence score doesn't automatically go up. So take that, smart kids. All right, let's go on. For the first part, it is about learning and curiosity. Are you listening to podcasts or reading or doing courses or watching educational YouTube channels? I'd ask myself, is my brain on autopilot or am I like feeding it nutritious foods? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give myself a +2 for this one. Hold on, I'm laughing because I'm remembering and reminding myself that although I have a lot of nutritious, like veggies as far as like what I'm learning, I also have the occasional candy. For me, that's like romantasy and that sort of thing. So if there's any girlies in the chat, hit me up. Anyway, that's my candy. The next one is about self-reflection. This one is about like, are you taking the steps to grow? Are you leaving space in your life to work on yourself? Are you journaling? Are you doing therapy? Are you doing meditation or allowing yourself to just kind of like sit with yourself and rattle around your brain? I'd ask myself, do I understand what's driving my choices? Or am I just reacting to what's in front of me? I am aware of the thoughts these days, and I'm giving myself time to jot things down and kind of like chew on those feelings and figure out like what that tastes like. And sometimes I spit it out and be like, what the heck was that? I don't know where this metaphor is going, but anyway, I'm gonna give myself a 2 for that. The next one is about aligned decision-making, wise decision-making. For this section, I would ask myself questions like, have I made any big choices lately that felt really aligned with who I am, why I do things, where I wanna go in life? I'd ask things like, was I thoughtful about my choices, or was I making choices in a panic? Am I trusting myself to make smart calls, or am I just making decisions because I feel like I have to in the moment? I made a big life decision this year, and I know that it's right for me, and I trust myself in making that decision. So yeah, I'm gonna give myself a 2. Next up is thought organization. Are you using sticky notes, or are you able to get your thoughts out of your head and onto something that you can like physically, tangibly have in front of you? Or is everything just kind of like rattling in your brain? I'm gonna say hot and cold for me for this one. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in my head that I'm like, it's too much to write down, but I've gotten a lot better about it as well. It's usually emotions that get stuck in there, not like to-do list stuff. I'm generally pretty good about jotting those things down. Again, execution, not always the part, but jotting it down, pretty good. I would say the emotional stuff sometimes I'm like, you can get stuff down there. You got some time to kind of like fester before it needs to come out. So yeah, I'm gonna give myself a 1 for that. Lastly, managing attention and cognitive load, basically like mental clutter. I would ask myself things like, do I feel clear and focused? Or is my mind like constantly spinning? I've gotten so much better with this. If things feel foggy, I'll detach and come back to it. I just know that when I start with a bad habit, like scrolling, it's much harder. So I know what is causing those things, but it doesn't always work out that I'm actually like, yeah, executing on the thing. So I'm gonna give myself a +1. How are you doing so far, by the way? Are you with me? Are you still with me? We've got 2 more sections. You've already done so many. S, P, E, C, I. You've already done 5 sections. And if you're with me still, I'm so proud of you. I hope that you are proud of yourself as well. That is the intelligence section. Same breakdown here as before. 5 areas, 2 points each. That's curiosity, self-reflection, decision-making, thought organization, and mental clarity. Max of 10. I'm at an 8. If your brains felt foggy lately, that's okay. This one's literally like not about optimization. It is just about noticing where your mind feels supported and where it might need a little bit more support and care. All right, let's talk about abundance. And if you are a Fallout diehard and you're going, A isn't abundance, it's agility, then I'm here to tell you, I know, but for these purposes, I changed it. That's it. Because abundance makes more sense. So anyway, let's talk about this one. Abundance. And before your shoulders tense up, this isn't about how much money you make or like whether you've got your whole financial life figured out. It's more so about like your relationship with money. You know what I mean? Like whether that relationship feels intentional or clear or even open, or does it feel stressful and like avoidant? First one, tracking or budgeting practices. I would ask myself things like, do I know where my money's going? Am I tracking it in some way, like a budget or a spreadsheet, even a notes app, or am I avoiding it and hoping it works itself out? Remember how I was like, don't get nervous? Do you see my shoulders? They tensed up like this. Okay, so full disclosure, I do not have a budget. Like I know where the money is going, even though I don't have a budget sheet. I also sound like I'm just making excuses for not having a budgeting sheet. That doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like I'm just making excuses? At the same time, the balancing happens every month, especially for our business. I'm gonna give myself a +1. It's not disastrous. It's not perfect. Next up, value-based spending. If that sounds confusing, let me give you some examples. I would ask myself, like, when I spend money, am I making choices with buying things that feel aligned with my life? Or am I just clicking add to cart to feel something? I think that in this category, it is very intentional. Like it's never like oh my gosh, what did I just buy? I am a thrifty spender, and when I do, I know what I'm spending my money on. I would say +2, minus the money that I just spent on Fallout Shelter. Next is decreased financial anxiety. Ooh, financial stress. How much anxiety have I felt about money lately? Do I feel safe? Do I feel stable? Does it feel like I'm constantly bracing for something to go wrong? Unless your interest is paying for your entire life, I don't know if you'll ever feel completely secure. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me in the comments. I think that there is a feeling of abundance and anxiety all at the same time for myself. I can't fully relax into being like everything will work itself out. And at the same time, that anxiety kind of fuels my next moves in life as well. Maybe that's like the hunter-gatherer part where it's just like gotta keep hunting, gotta keep gathering. This is the part of life. I'm just still figuring it out. So I'm gonna give myself a +1. Next up, healthy income flow or financial planning. I would ask myself questions like, do I have a healthy income flow? Have I made any plans for saving and investing, or even setting a little cushion for future me? Consistent financial flow. I'm a content creator, so that has always been a little bit of like how do we make this consistent? But the latter half with saving and investing, always been very good about it. I'm gonna settle with +1 for that. And finally, hitting or working toward a financial milestone. I'd ask myself questions like, have I made any financial moves that I'm proud of this year? Even small ones, like paid off a bill or built a tiny emergency fund or opened that account I've been putting off. I would say any sort of financial milestone or goal that you had, give yourself points for that. Because again, this is about a relationship to money, not like, do you have buku dollars coming out of like your ears and every single like orifice in your body. It is about your relationship to money and staying open about it. And just like ripping a band-aid off, that was the abundance section. You got through it. Just like the other sections, each of these 5 areas is worth 2 points. Budgeting, aligned spending, stress levels, planning, and progress. Max of 10, I'm at a 6. Oh, I think I forgot to say +1 for the last section. For me, this year is a big investment year with a lot of money going into school. Working less, volunteering more, so it's a little expected and I'm not freaking out, but it's good to see where I'm at for myself. And again, like I think it's easy to tense up when it comes to any conversations around money. So if anything, I hope this section sort of eases you into having a conversation with yourself. I'm proud of you for stepping up and trying this section. It's about cracking open that door. just so that you can see where you're already showing up for yourself and where there's room for gentle support. So that's all. That's it. Let's move on to the next section. Last up is luck. And this one's not about like superstition or finding a 4-leaf clover. It is about mindset. This one's about like gratitude and trust and being open to the idea that things can work out even if you can't control the whole path. Let's do this. First section is gratitude and acknowledgement. For this section, I would ask myself, have I been noticing what's going on well? Am I taking time to celebrate wins? Am I patting myself on the back for that? Or do I move on without pausing? And if so, why? I think I am so much better at patting myself on the back for little things. I'm learning some new techniques around it as well, and kind of like physically tapping yourself well and telling yourself that you're freaking amazing. Big shout out to Marcus Weiss, who has been coaching me. I think I am much better at this, especially compared to where I've been in the past. So, big win there. Next up is about vision setting or goal anchoring. Do I have a sense of where I'm headed? Am I working toward a vision that actually excites me? Am I putting energy behind it? Am I manifesting, or am I just hoping it happens on its own? I'm gonna give myself a 2 on this one too. Oof. I think I'm, no, I don't even think. I know that I'm doing this. So yeah, it's just, I feel it, you know what I hated that voice. Anyway, I know that I'm doing it, so I'm gonna give myself a 2. Next one is mindset shifts. I would ask myself, have there been moments this year where I saw something differently in myself, where my perspective opened up or softened in a way that changed how I relate to life? I would say my mindset has completely shifted this year. The shift in content is most definitely a reflection of it. So you've seen that shift. Yeah, it's a big shift. So I'm gonna give myself a 2 for that. Then we've got moments of release and acceptance. This is about letting go of control. I would ask myself things like, when things don't go as planned, how do I respond? Am I able to release my grip of control? Or do I spiral when I'm not steering the ship? Mel Robbins has an awesome book, an audiobook called The Let Them Theory. And this has been kind of like my guidebook this year, and I'm practicing it. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect, but I'm really, really, really like proud that I'm doing it. So I'm gonna give myself +2 for that one. Next up, for trusting your path over forcing control. This is about trust. Do I trust myself? Do I trust the timing of how things are going in my life? Even if things don't look like I thought it would or expected to, have I let go of those expectations? And have there been moments of synchronicity, things that weirdly feel like perfect timings, things that remind me that things might be unfolding exactly how they're meant to, even if I don't have control over it every single moment? Yes, I'm gonna give myself a 2 on that one as well. And that's the luck section. Just like the others, 5 areas, 2 points each. The parts are about gratitude, vision, mindset, release, finally trust. Maximum of 10. Honestly, in another time in my life, I think I would have been embarrassed or like shied away from telling you that I got a 10 out of 10. Or I gave myself a 10 out of 10, I should say. Not that I got, like I gave myself that 10. I think I would have felt like judged if I did, but I am receiving it fully. I'm taking it and accepting it because I know that I deserve it. You know what I mean? This is where I'm at in my life. And in other parts of my life, years past, I wouldn't be saying these words. So again, it doesn't mean that it means that I'm perfect or that I don't need to do any more work. It is more like a checkpoint of where I am right now in life and just doing that, right? Did that, good job. And same for you. If this one might feel a little like abstract to you, that's okay. I would say go back and think about each of these questions and see how they make you feel. And if it's foreign, talking about vision boards and manifestation and all that stuff, if there's any sort of pushback or you're like, oh, I'm not into that, then put a pin in it and just stay curious as to why it made you feel that way. Sometimes the biggest shifts in our lives come from asking questions, and it is okay to not have an immediate answer. It is just most important that you did the asking in the first place. And I'll leave it at that. Before you add everything up and before we close things out completely, there is one more category. And honestly, it might be my favorite. This one is side quests, because life isn't really always tidy or trackable. Sometimes the biggest growth moments don't show up in routines or in perfect numbers. They show up in sort of like chaos, and sometimes in ways that we find ourselves being courageous, or things that happen in weird timing, or in something quiet personally that changed you. So this wraps some of those things up. Maybe not all of it, but some things. And it gives you a bonus 10 XP possibility based on experiences that shaped your life and point of view in this year, even if they don't fall perfectly into these special stats. Each one of these gives you +1 XP. So yeah, let's see what feels true for you. First one is, did you navigate a major life change, like a shift in your job or your home, your identity, your health, or your relationships? Next, did you take a risk aligned with your values? Next up, did you support someone through a tough moment, whether it was emotionally or physically or even creatively, like when they really needed it? Were you there for someone? Next up, did you complete a major goal or project? This can be a personal goal or project, or something for work, or something in between. Next up, did you allow joy or rest or stillness without any guilt involved? Next up, did you make your space feel more supportive by cleaning it up or rearranging it or changing something that impacted your energy? I know it might be a little overkill, but for me, all these like plants, even though they're fake, make me feel something. I need a little green in my life. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because I live in the desert now, but like this, it just gives me energy. I love it. I don't know how it makes you feel. It looks a little post-apocalyptic, like the plants are taking over, but I don't know. I like it. Anyway, okay, moving on. Sorry. Next one. Did you have a breakthrough, a moment that shifted your perspective or cracked something open? Did you discover something meaningful about yourself, even if it didn't feel big at the time? Did you let go of something that was quietly draining you? Ooh, I like that one. And finally, did you face something you'd been avoiding? That's 10 possible bonus points, and I didn't go through each one of mine because a story for each is not necessary. But I hope you were able to go through these and give yourself some points. No pressure at all to check all of them. This is not about getting a perfect score. It's just about noticing what you've gone through, what you've lived through, and you might be holding more progress than you might think. So give yourself some credit where it is due. All right, so now it's time to tally it up. You've got your 7 special stats, each one worth up to 10 points. That is a total possible base of 70 XP plus the 10 more XP from the side quest. So in total, you're working with a max of 80 XP. And once you've added it all up, here is the growth tier breakdown, which is what I'm calling it. If you scored 0 to 20 XP, you're a seedling. You've just planted the seeds and growth is totally possible. You're just starting out. But, care and consistency will be key and you've got this. Next up, between 21 to 35 XP, sprout. You've got momentum. There are early signs of growth, but things might still feel a little uneven or fragile. It's all good. You're getting there. Next up, 36 to 55 XP, rooted. Ooh, I love how that sounds. You're grounded. You've built some solid patterns and you're moving with more clarity and more alignment than ever before. 56 to 70 XP, you are in bloom. You're thriving. There's flow, there's structure, there's strength here, and things feel more in sync. And finally, if you score between 71 and 80 XP, you are radiant. You're overflowing with energy. You've expanded beyond structure and into full empowerment, trust, and joy. I love it. I love it. Wherever you land, just take a second to take that in. You've reflected on a lot, and that is not easy. And it's definitely not nothing. So whether your score surprised you or confirmed what you already felt, I hope it gave you just a clearer picture of where you're at right now. And I hope you feel really, really proud of yourself for even trying it. This isn't a test. You don't get extra credit for being in bloom or radiant. Wherever you are, that is your terrain. That's where your story continues from. And that's it. That was life checkpoints. If you did your own check-in alongside me, I would love to hear how it went. Let me know, what was your highest stat? What surprised you? I'd love to hear all about it, so please leave a comment if you feel like sharing, or keep it for yourself if that feels better as well. And if you want to revisit this later in the year or any time of the year, the framework will still be here. It'll still be the same. This is not just a mid-year thing. It's something you can return to whenever you feel like a little fuzzy on where your bearings are. If you haven't already downloaded the PDF, remember it's free and the link is in the description. I also have a Notion template available for day-to-day habit forming and tracking. This one is also in the Stardew aesthetic, so it'll match the free PDF if you get both. Lastly, you may have noticed some members-only content going live on this channel, and if you're curious to unlock those videos and to be a part of the tavern, hit the join button to access YouTube memberships, and I would love to see you there. This has been a very long video, but I am so glad that you're here with me, and thank you for trying out the life checkpoint or just listening to me babble. Anyway, until next time, friend, be well, and I'll see you soon.